Hey boys and girls, it's Miss Yelton with another math lesson. Yesterday we worked on comparing two fractions with the same numerator or the same denominator. And yesterday we used our fraction bars and our fraction circles to compare the two fractions that we were working on. Well, today we're going to continue to compare fractions, but we're going to be using number lines. So on your paper that you have out, go ahead and draw two number lines that are the same length. Don't worry about the third one, just draw two. And you're going to work with me to label these number lines. So if you need to pause the video, do that and get your number lines drawn out. And the first one that we're going to be comparing, we are going to compare 3/8 and 5/8. So for this one, because our denominator is the same, but our numerator is different, we can actually use one number line for this one. So for this one, we're going to start, we always start with 0. And when we're dealing with fractions smaller than a whole, we stop at 1. So we're going to go ahead and break this in half. And if we do, and we're eighths. How many eighths would be half? What is half of 8? 4. So 4/8 would be midway between 0 and 1 because 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. When the numerator is half of the denominator, it's equal to a half. So let's go ahead and now we know that we need how many pieces on this side? What's half of 8? 4. So to get 4 pieces, we draw 3 lines. So I'm just going to kind of do the best I can here. 1, 2, 3. And the same thing here. 1, 2, 3. And that should give us 8 sections. So let's count and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good, we have 8 sections on our line. Now we're ready to label the whole thing. We have 0, or we could say 0/8, and then 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. 4/8 is already there. That's the same as a half. 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and we already have 1, but we know that 8/8 is the same as 1 whole. So for this one, what I want you to do is pick up your pencil and put a dot on 3/8. That's our first fraction. And then our second fraction was 5/8. So let's find 5/8 and let's put a dot there. And I want you to think about which fraction is farther from the 0. So which one goes farther out the line? Is it 3/8 or is it 5/8? So when we look closely, we see that 5/8 is bigger than 3/8. So we're going to put our sign in here, less than sign. 3/8 is less than 5/8. And we used one number line to do that. We labeled it and we put our dots on, and we could see starting at 0, 3/8 is less than 5/8. And we can think about this like if we were walking on a trail and it was 1 mile, and Rylan went 3/8 of a mile and Isaac went 5/8 of a mile. Let's label their names there because I know they're watching this video. Rylan and Isaac. And we could say which boy went farther on the trail, and we could see that it's Isaac. He went farther with 5/8 of a mile. Rylan stopped at 3/8 of a mile. So 3/8 is less than 5/8. Okay, now for the next one. Now for the next one, you are going to need 2 number lines. So go ahead and make sure that you have 2. If you don't have 2, pause the video and make sure you have that. And so I'm going to put our fractions down here on the bottom, if I can fit them in, that we're comparing. So let's do 1/2 and 1/4. 1/4. Can you see that? 1/2 and 1/4. So for our top number line, we're going to divide it in half. So we'll put a 0 here, a 1 here, and this is pretty easy, half. So we're just going to find the midpoint, draw a line, label 1/2, and there we go, 1/2. We could go back and say 0 halves, 1/2. 1 whole is the same as 2 halves. And there we go. That one is labeled. Now for the 1/4 on the bottom number line, we're going to label our 0, our 1, and to divide it into fourths, we'll start with half because we remember that a fourth is half of a half. If you have a half and you split it into 2 parts or divide it equally, 2/4 is the same as a half. So we're going to take our half on the line and split it, and then split this half, and then label fourths. We should have 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, which is the same as a whole. Now, let's say that Derek, I know he's watching the video. Derek ate half of an apple. So we'll put Derek here. I think that's how he spells his name. And we'll say that Sophia ate 1/4 of an apple. I'm sure she's watching the video. So if Derek ate half of an apple, Sophia ate 1/4 of an apple, who ate more of the apple? So remember, we always kind of start at 0 and work our way to the right. So the farther down the number line, the bigger the piece, the bigger the fraction. So it looks like for sure that Derek ate more. So a half is greater than 1/4. 1/2 is greater than 1/4. Okay, go ahead and draw another number line. Pause the video if you need to. And this number line, we're going to be comparing 2 fractions with the same denominator. So we only need 1 number line for this one. And the 2 fractions that we are comparing are 5/6 and 1/6. And we'll make a story problem out of this one too. Let's go ahead and label our number line into 6 pieces or sixths because that's our denominator. So it's both fractions are less than a whole, so we're going to stop at 1. And let's think really hard. What is half of 6? Half of 6 is 3, so we can go ahead and put 3/6 in the middle because the numerator is half of the denominator. So how many pieces should be on this side? 3. So in order to make 3 pieces, remember we draw 2 lines. That gives us 1, 2, 3, then 2 more lines. 4, 5, 6. Now let's get this one labeled. 0, 6, 1, 6, 2, 6, 3 6s already there. 4, 6, 5, 6, and 6, 6, same as a whole. Okay, my story problem for this one says, Maddie from Miss Hamilton's class, she was jogging and she jogged 5/6 of the trail. The whole trail is in 6 sections. So she jogged 5/6 of the trail. So let's put her dot here and we'll go ahead and label her Maddie. And then Aaliyah was also jogging, and Aaliyah, she's a little tired this day, so she stopped to pick flowers at 1/6 of the trail. She only ran 1/6 of the trail because she saw some pretty flowers and wanted to pick those. So let's put Aaliyah here. So who ran more? If Maddie ran 5/6 of the trail and Aaliyah ran 1/6 of the trail, which fraction is greater? And I think that you guys can easily see if you start on 0 and you're going towards the right, that Maddie with 5/6 of the trail was greater than Aaliyah. So 5/6 is greater than 1/6. So for our last two number lines, go ahead and draw those. Make sure that they're the same length as best you can. Pause the video if you need to. We are going to be comparing 2/4 and 2/3. Numerator's the same, denominators are different. So go ahead and get those ready. On our top line, we'll start with 0. We'll end with a whole. We're making it into fourths, so we know that 2/4, that's already the same as a half because our numerator is half of the denominator. And when we half each half, we have 0/4, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. And then our bottom fraction, we're going to do thirds. So we're going to start at 0, end at 1, and then 3 pieces. You can't divide 3 in half, so I'm just going to have to kind of eyeball it the best I can. Sometimes I have to erase when I think it's not exactly right. My middle section looks a little bit longer, kind of even it out. I still think this one's just a little longer. You may be doing the same thing. Hopefully you have a pencil with an eraser. Pretty good. Okay, and so for labeling this one into thirds, I have 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. Now, for our story problem, we have some kids working math problems. Hunter is working math problems and Latrell is working math problems. Hunter worked 2/4 of his math problems, so we'll put him here. He's at 2/4. And then we have Latrell. He worked 2/3 of his math problems. Maybe he didn't have as many because his denominator is smaller. So which fraction is bigger, 2/4 or 2/3? And we can see they're pretty close, but 2/3 is greater than, or 2/4 is less than 2/3. 2/3 is greater than 2/4. And I can show you that quickly using our circle fractions. Here's 2/3, or 2/4, sorry, and here are 2/3. So they're close, but not equal. 2/3 is greater than 2/4. And that's all for today. Tomorrow we'll be working on some more fractions.